Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Mesdames et messieurs les maires, chers participants. Je suis heureux aujourd'hui, au nom de l'équipe organisatrice, de vous accueillir pour cette seconde journée de la première édition de la COP des villes. La journée d'hier a été très riche, elle a aussi été un peu longue. Celle-ci sera tout aussi riche, mais sera un peu moins longue. Pour vous résumer très vite ce qui doit se passer aujourd'hui, nous aurons cette première table ronde dans 2 minutes sur l'eau, l'eau comme menace, l'eau comme ressource. Nous aurons ensuite la deuxième édition de l'initiative de Paris pour la préservation des forêts et de la biodiversité, puis la plénière de clôture. Ensuite, après le repas, nous vous inviterons à prendre place dans des bus pour aller vers la forêt du Banco. La forêt du Banco donc, a la particularité d'être une très grande forêt en centre-ville d'une grande métropole. Je ne m'attarde pas davantage, je voudrais laisser la place donc à la première, avant de laisser la place à la première table ronde, peut-être vous proposer une petite vidéo de Mimosette Dibanga, qui est vice-présidente de Climate Mali et qui va introduire notre journée avant qu'on passe à la première table ronde.
Ou du moins, quelles sont les approches durables qui devraient davantage être traitées et portées. Donatus, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay. Just to start, I will say all coastal cities need climate change adaptation strategy. Therefore, while the mayors and the government agencies are at that trying to find this coastal climate change strategy, I will make my presentation following your question. First, all coastal cities, or all cities, need to have an assessment of how vulnerable their cities are. We are aware that all cities are affected by climate change, yes, but you would agree with me that inland cities seem to be less affected compared to the coastal cities. And why am I saying this? First, you will notice that coastal cities are very close to the ocean, and by their proximity to the ocean, they are at higher risk with a little rise in water levels. The second reason is that coastal cities are largely low-lying in terms of elevation with respect to the mean sea level. So once they are low-lying and we have a climate change or any extreme event, this is likely to affect all the coastal cities extremely compared to those more inland. The third one, which we are all aware that has been discussed maybe yesterday, is that coastal cities are largely inhabited. They are the cities that have all our industries. They are the cities that have the largest population. Therefore, the influence or our actions that we take at the coastal areas are likely to cause more hazard than those inland. So for us to build our strategy, we need information, particularly in the African context, on the number of events in terms of maybe flooding. We need to have pure or good data on this kind of information. We also need to have early warning systems. I know that in developed cities or in developed countries, this information may be there, but when you come to the African context or African region, we lack a lot of data. We lack a lot of information in terms of what will happen, who will be affected, and where will be affected exactly. When you look at developed countries like the US, all the cities, they know, okay, in the history, we have this number of floods. Every year, this is the number of floods we experience, and this is the extent. When you come to maybe Ghana or Ivory Coast, we may have just information for the bigger cities like Abidjan, but when you move in, to the villages, those that are also located on the coastal area, this information is missing. The second thing that I would like to talk about is constraining or providing sea level rise strategy. And this, I'll go more on the engineering aspect. You know, for us to be able to handle this climate change issue, we must now start factoring in sea level in everything that we do. For instance, if you are developing a structure along the coast or on the sea, you need to factor in the rates. And as we know, these rates are likely to escalate in the next 30 years. So I entreat mayors to always ask their engineers, did you factor in sea level rise? Did you factor in the rate before you design this building or this plan? Also, when we want to exploit resources, we must look at what will happen. Of late, we have a lot of development going on in Africa because we are developing quickly. So we have the tendency to destroy, to cut down a lot of trees so that we can build, particularly along the coastal area. Therefore, we must have another strategy to put in back what we have cut down. The third thing that I want to talk about is the solutions that we provide. Climate change is considered as a crisis. And cities have the tendency to provide ad hoc solutions. I use ad hoc because this crisis, people want to have solutions quickly. What I will suggest is that in terms of these solutions, we have to consider partnership. We have a situation in terms of, let's say, coastal management. If you look along on Google, on all the coastal areas in Africa, where we have erosion, you will realize that there are some interventions that are being put. If you look at some of these interventions seriously, for example, taking a groin, where perpendicular boulders are placed to control erosion, this type of intervention is good for the person who is doing it, but it has adverse effect on the neighboring communities. Therefore, I would entreat that solutions that we provide should always consider the adjacent cities or the neighboring cities. And that is why I'm very happy that this program was not only organized in Paris, but what brought everybody here. So it's an example that we must follow to show that we need to work in partnership to handle this climate change situation. And one good solution that we have to also adapt, which has also been was hinted yesterday, is the kind of intervention we use. Previously, we used to have this all-in-gray infrastructure. And this has even economic effect on us. Right now, the best solution or the good solution we can practice is to adopt this nature-based solution. For example, if you revegetate your area, revegetate the coastline, you are going to have your natural environment building, and you can have you can still have some tourist or economic activity going on. So the kind of solution we use when we have a climate change event or flooding, we have to consider mostly the nature-based solution, or we can mix the solutions. Because we have realized that going for all-in-gray infrastructure destroys our environment. For example, if you build a flat wall or a dike, it will protect your area, but it will also prevent you from using beaches. Okay. So, My last but one comment I will add is that mayors have a lot of duties. They have a lot of challenges. Particularly, they can be politically disturbed. So my point is that the ideas are there, the science is there, the information is there. In areas that is not there, mayors should make the effort to have it. But the point I want to make is that in terms of decision making, they must be very bold, because I have realized that in my country, there are issues, and one government will come and do something. When the government is in power, it says, nobody should do this, or, no, I will do this. And then the opposite will say, don't do that. But when they come into power, they get to do it. So I think the mayors should be bold. They should have a plan, a long-term plan for the city. And considering the science, this can go a long way to support the development of the city in terms of climate change and prevent it from getting affected seriously. The last point I will talk about is the science is there, but I say that in Africa, we don't have enough. One thing we need to do, we that are gathered here are aware of climate change. But I can assure you that there are many people in the villages who are affected by climate change, but they don't know that it's climate change. They do not know it's climate change. So it is very necessary for us to create the awareness to make sure that all the people who are involved, or everybody gets to understand what we are talking about in terms of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, now we know we need money for various things. For example, most coastal cities need to be relocated. Most of them, especially in Africa. If you go along the beaches, the fishermen and people who are really working at the coast are facing several challenges. So there's a lot of need for money to relocate these guys. But I will say that we need to also add the sciences. I know that we know climate change, oh, this is the rate of climate change, this is the rate of climate change. But there are underground variables, there are variables that are contributing to this climate change. So we should look at these variables and add them to the sciences, or to this climate change variable, so that if we can tackle some of these parameters, it will go a long way to also help us to solve the problem. So I recommend monitoring, continuous monitoring, and analysis in the science area with all variables involved. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Et effectivement, la science, elle aussi, aura besoin de financement. Donc je pense que nos deux sujets clés de cette conclusion se rejoignent.